I moved to Israel in January 1996 to study. First in Haifa and then in Jerusalem. For the first few years, I was on a student visa. Only when I decided to transfer from my master's program to the rabbinical program did I decide to make Aliyah to become an Israeli citizen. I have a very strong memory of walking the streets of Jerusalem while trying to make that decision. I know exactly which street in Katamon Ayeshana, the old Katamon neighborhood, and realizing I was home. I was finally home. After years of wandering personally, as this was my third country, spiritually, as I carried everything in a very deep way, and also perhaps familiarly with the generational experience of exile, I had arrived. I stood on that very narrow street and I cried. It was my time. I was going to make Aliyah. As you know, life took me on a different journey, one I did not expect. Isn't that what life is about? And I ended up moving to Boston 10 years later. But that profound feeling I had long ago on that old and narrow street, that sense of homecoming, that has always stayed with me. And so I weep now for Israel, for my Israel. I have expressed my love and commitment to Israel with steady criticism of its politics over the many years since I have become more aware of the injustices against minority, especially, but not only against Palestinian people. When living in Israel, I was actively involved in all kinds of organizations and endeavors working for justice, mostly around women issues, LGBTQ issues, and freedom of religion. My fights, my standing in protest has always been nurtured by my love and by the hope that Israel can be the place of justice for all its inhabitants, as stated in the Declaration of Independence. The State of Israel will foster the development of the country for the benefit of all its inhabitants. It will be based on freedom, justice, and peace, as envisaged by the prophets of Israel. It will ensure complete equality of social and political rights to all its inhabitants, irrespective of religion, race, or sex. It will guarantee freedom of religion, conscience, language, education, and culture. Over the years since being a rabbi in Boston and here in TBZ, I've been outspoken about all things Israel. And I have tried, not always successfully, to be in conversation with so many of you, those who agree with my views and those who disagree. You're probably not going to be surprised if I tell you that I get criticized, or maybe when the criticism is more gentle, I get feedback from the left and from the right. Our congregation and the Jewish community around us has many voices. Those who think Israel should not exist as a Jewish state. Those who think we should not criticize the government of Israel because criticism means not supporting Israel, and even those who believe criticism of Israel is a form of anti-Semitism. And today I weep with people in Israel, and I stand with them, with the hundreds of thousands of them who have been filling the streets for many months. I cannot disengage myself from this conversation, and I want to tell you today why I believe that you too must engage. Believe me, I went back and forth too many times trying to decide if I should speak about Israel from the Bima on the high holidays. After all, I often speak about Israel on Shabbat morning, and many of you have come with me to protest organized by Boston Unacceptable, a grassroots movement launched by Israeli experts in support of democratic Israel. So why bring this hot political issue to the Bima during these 10 days of introspection and spirituality? My answer is that when I hear the call of the shofar, I know I must respond. Our fate as the Jewish people here in Boston and wherever we are is intertwined with the fate of the Jewish people in Israel and all over the world, for good and for bad. No matter where your personal or my personal relationship with Israel stands, I have been to Israel, I haven't. I have family there, I don't. I like Israel, I don't. I think having a Jewish state is key to the survival of the Jewish people. I don't think having Jewish state is necessary at all. No matter which view you have, or if you're somewhere in between, it does not change the fact that what happens in Israel cannot be separated from our own Jewish existence here in Massachusetts. Some might ask why, especially those of us who do not have a personal connection, if any, with Israel. Why should a Jew living in Brookline care? Reasons can vary for each of us, and different reasons might resonate, and different reasons might resonate some more deeply. First, our liturgy and text speaks about Israel. Even when we think about this metaphorically, the connection to the land is real and ancient. And even if that doesn't speak to some of us, Israel contains half the world's Jewish population, and that is a fact. And additionally, like it or not, we are judged by non-Jews for what happens there. You may object to that, but the reality is that acts are being done in our name as Jews by other Jews, and if we don't speak out, then we are complicit. So ignoring Israel is not an option. We must recognize that this moment is historic and will determine the future of Israel and thus the future of the Jewish people. That is part of our burden as a people, for good and for bad. What is happening right now in Israel puts the existence of Israel as a liberal democracy in danger. The Israel that will respect all of its inhabitants, that will listen to different voices, that will accept us as non-Orthodox Jews, that Israel is in danger. What is happening in Israel right now with the attempts to overhaul the judiciary system will destroy Israel as we know it. It will become a theocracy ruled by extremist Jews who believe in the supremacy of the Jewish people over everyone else. What is happening now in Israel will clear a path for the annexation of the occupied territories without regards to the life of Palestinians living in those areas. What is happening now in Israel is giving voice to one kind of Judaism. It's giving politicians the right to define what Judaism is. And their definition leaves us out. And leaves out our vision of an inclusive, democratic Israel, one that believes in a shared society and a shared place to live in peace. Esther Sperberg, an Israeli-American architect, said at a protest on Tisha B'Av outside the Israeli consulate in New York, if missiles were falling on Israel, every Jewish synagogue, school, and JCC would be out to support Israel. This is a self-inflicted legislative missile attack on Israel led by an extreme right-wing messianic and corrupt government. Like Esther, I believe that we must act as if missiles are falling on us because the stakes are that high. And Rabbi Delphine Horvier, a French rabbi, wrote an essay this past January titled, "For Zion's Sake, I Will Not Keep Silent." In it, she reminds us that we have a choice to make, not between a democratic state or a Jewish state, but between Jewish voices of extremism and hatred and Jewish voices of justice. Rabbi Horvillier writes about the current Minister of National Security, Itamar Ben-Gvir, a religious Jew who wears a kippah and lives what he calls a religious life. He also endorses the denial of Palestinian right of movement and supported the settlers who rampage in Huwara, Palestinian village. A video of these settlers stopping to daven Mariv to pray the evening service during that pogrom went viral. Rabbi Horvillier explains, Ben-Gvir's interpretation of Judaism is just one voice, just one language among so many others. His language is not my Jewish language. It is not the one in which I speak to my children, my students, or my friends. And it is not the one I believe in. It is exclusive. An exclusionary message, it's exclusive. An exclusionary message impoverishes and condemns us even as it claims full legitimacy. It must be fought not only by modern democratic means, but also from within the Jewish tradition. It is up to us not to let Zionism or Judaism be kidnapped by those who claim it. It is up to us to fight for democracy in Israel, not against Judaism, but with and through it. This last sentence is so powerful and bears repeating. It is up to us to fight for democracy in Israel, not against Judaism, but with and through it. I'm here to say, like Rabbi Horvillier, that I would not let anyone, especially those in power in Israel, kidnap Judaism for me, and for you. But I'm also here to remind you that our fate is bound up with each other. We're all interconnected, people in Israel and people in the US, Orthodox Jews, secular Jews, extremists, and progressives, Zionists and anti-Zionists. We are all interconnected. In the coming year, I want to invite you to do 3 things to deepen your understanding of our relationship with Israel, no matter where you stand politically. Number 1, get curious about aspects of Israel you don't understand. Maybe you want to learn about Israel's judicial reform. Maybe you want to learn about the experiences of Israeli citizens in the diaspora. Maybe you want to learn about Israeli grassroots groups fighting for the rights of Palestinians. Lean into your curiosity, ask questions, listen with resilience. Number 2, engage in a conversation about Israel that feels challenging, but do so with humility. There's a beautiful poem by the Israeli poet Yehuda Amichai called "The Place Where We Are Right." It begins with the words, "From the place where we are right, flowers will never grow in the spring." His poem invites us to consider loosening our grip on what we know to be true. Amichai reminds us that if we truly wish to grow, we need to acknowledge that we don't have all the answers. We are not always right. Growing our relationship with Israel is not easy. It depends on our capacity to talk about things that are hard and painful. It requires us to listen deeply to others and acknowledge what we don't know. Number 3, finally, commit to being fully present in your relationship or in your struggle with Israel. I want to return to the words of Ya'aleh Koleinu. As I have shared, we chose these words from the beautiful Piyut Ya'aleh to be guiding words during the high holidays. Ya'aleh תחנוננו מערב, ויבוא שבתנו מבוקר, ויראה רינוננו עד ערב. May our supplications ascend from the evening, and may our cry come from the morning, and may our songs appear till evening. This word speaks to the opening of our hearts and voices bringing our full self to prayer, bringing a full self to life, and committing ourselves to showing up in the world morning, afternoon, and evening, all the time. That includes how we show up in learning about Israel. Allow yourself to be vulnerable. Open up to each other about your hopes and fears for Israel's future. Stand up and raise your voice for your values. Treat yourself and each other generously, not only when it feels easy, but especially when it feels hard. I would like to invite you to rise as you are able, as I'm going to read a prayer for Israel written by the Unacceptable Grassroots group here in the United States. יהי רצון שתבורך מדינת ישראל ותמשיך להתקיים כמדינה דמוקרטית וליברלית המכבדת את כל תושביה ואת כל גווני היהדות. יהי רצון שלראשי המדינה ואזרחיה תהיה התבונה להקשיב לקולות השונים, לנהל את המחלוקות לשם שמיים, לקבל החלטות ולפעול לטובת כלל הציבור. יהי רצון שיהיה לנו הכוח להמשיך במאבק לשמירת עצמאות המערכת המשפטית ולשמירת שוויון הזכויות לכל תושבי מדינת ישראל ולכל העם היהודי. אמן.
Amen.
May it be your will that the state of Israel be blessed and continue to exist as a liberal democracy, respecting all its inhabitants and all shades of Judaism. May it be your will that the leaders and people of Israel have the wisdom to listen to different voices and diverse viewpoints, manage the disputes, and take action that benefit the community and the whole public. May it be your will that we have the strength to protect the judicial system's independence and preserve equal rights for all people of Israel and all the Jewish people worldwide. And let us say,
Amen.
You may be seated.